We are told from a young age that words have the power to destroy us, that a sharp insult can cut deeper than any blade. But what if that common belief is a complete illusion? Imagine this familiar scenario unfolding in your own life. You are standing in a long line for your morning coffee, or sitting quietly at your desk at work, when suddenly someone throws a cruel, unprovoked insult your way. Maybe it is a jealous coworker trying to belittle your hard work, or a stranger projecting their bad day onto you in a parking lot. Instantly, you feel the heat rise in your chest. Your blood begins to boil, your heart races, and your fragile ego immediately flares up like a match struck in a dark room. Every single fiber of your being screams at you to defend yourself, demanding that you find the perfect, devastating comeback to put them in their place and prove to the world that you are not weak. This is the natural, hardwired human reaction. But right in that fiery, impulsive moment, you step directly into a massive psychological trap. By reacting, you are silently handing the absolute control of your own emotional state over to someone who does not even respect you. You are taking the invisible chains they just offered and willingly wrapping them around your own mind. The Stoic philosophers saw this toxic dynamic with crystal clarity thousands of years ago. They understood that the real issue is never the outside event, but the inner judgment. Think about it logically for a second. An insult is literally nothing more than a series of sound waves, just invisible vibrations moving through the air across a few feet of empty space. Those sound waves have no physical mass, no sharp edges, and absolutely no power to harm you. They cannot make you bleed, they cannot break your bones, and they cannot take away your inherent dignity. They are entirely harmless until they reach your brain and you make the active, conscious choice to agree with them. Epictetus, the great Stoic teacher who survived the brutal realities of ancient slavery, revealed this profound truth when he taught that it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. The insult does not hurt you. Your translation of the insult hurts you. You are the one repeating their bitter words in your head for the next 10 hours, twisting the imaginary knife long after the actual event has completely passed. When you react with anger, you are choosing to be a puppet, letting a foolish person pull your emotional strings. But Stoicism offers a radically different path, a path of absolute self-mastery and emotional control. It teaches the immense power of the pause. In that brief gap between the insult and your response, your freedom lives. Instead of exploding, you simply observe. Reaction is a cheap instinct, but restraint is a rare power. The ego demands noise and constant conflict, but wisdom quietly builds an unbreakable fortress of inner peace. When someone insults you, they are handing you a toxic gift. If you refuse to accept it, the poison remains entirely in their hands. They are left holding their own bitterness while you remain completely untouched. Treat their insults like the meaningless barking of a dog down the street. You would never drop down to your hands and knees to bark back at a stray dog. So why would you lower yourself to mirror the chaos of an angry person the next time someone tries to pull you into their storm? Stand your ground in absolute silence. Let their words hit the invisible shield of your dignity and fall harmlessly to the floor. Reclaim your inner freedom by realizing that your serenity is yours alone to protect. As the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily amid the heavy chaos of ruling the world, choose not to be harmed, and you will not feel harmed. But what if you could see straight through their anger? Imagine putting on an emotional X-ray lens the next time someone tries to tear you down. When someone lashes out at you, your ego immediately assumes it is a personal attack. You feel targeted and offended. But let us look closer at the reality of the situation. That coworker who constantly makes passive-aggressive comments, or that driver who cuts you off and screams out their car window. They are not acting from a place of true strength. They are acting from a place of profound weakness. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius realized this profound truth when he wrote that people do wrong because they are ignorant of what is truly good. They are blinded by their own insecurities, their unspoken fears, and their desperately fragile egos. A truly peaceful and grounded person does not walk around looking for ways to inflict pain on others. Only those who are deeply hurting inside feel the anxious need to project that poison outward. Think of their insults as symptoms of a severe internal sickness. You would never scream back at a sick person in a hospital just because they coughed in your direction. You would recognize that they are unwell, and you would show restraint. When someone insults you, their mind is sick with confusion. They falsely believe that dominating you or embarrassing you will somehow cure their own deep feelings of inadequacy. Once you see this dynamic clearly, the burning anger inside you evaporates and is instantly replaced by something much more powerful, which is pity. You realize they are already punishing themselves every single day. You do not need to seek revenge because their own miserable state of mind is a heavier burden than anything you could ever say to them. So how do you use this understanding in the real world? You completely change the frame. You stop seeing these difficult people as enemies who are trying to ruin your day. And you start seeing them as your sparring partners in the dojo of life. When you walk into a martial arts gym and your training partner throws a sudden punch at you, you do not throw a temper tantrum and ask why they are being so aggressive. You expect the physical pressure. You use that incoming force to test your reflexes, to check your balance, and to improve your defensive guard. Life operates the exact same way. The Stoic philosophers firmly believed that every difficult person you encounter is simply a live exercise designed to test your emotional endurance. When someone delivers an insult, they are handing you a free opportunity to lift a heavy emotional weight. They are actively testing the walls of your inner fortress. Are your psychological defenses as strong as you think they are? Or will one careless word cause your entire emotional foundation to crumble every single time you get irritated or offended? It is immediate feedback. It is the universe showing you exactly where your ego is still too fragile and where you still need to put in the work. Instead of feeling victimized by their words, you can silently thank them for the rigorous training. You forcefully shift your perspective from a mindset of weak reaction to a mindset of absolute mastery. You observe the insult land. You acknowledge the initial sting, but then you take a slow, deliberate breath, and you simply drop the rope. You absolutely refuse to play their toxic game. They desperately want you to explode because your anger validates their pathetic attack. By remaining completely silent and entirely unbroken, you deny them their expected prize. You prove to yourself that your character is forged from solid steel, while theirs is made of fragile glass. You gracefully step out of the chaos, leaving them alone to fight a shadow, while you walk away with your dignity completely intact and your peace of mind infinitely stronger than ever before. Now that you view these daily provocations not as personal attacks, but as vital training for your character, you must equip yourself with the exact weapons the Stoic masters used to win this silent internal battle. Let us open the philosophical arsenal and give you 3 practical, immediately actionable tools that you can deploy the very next time someone tries to drag you into their emotional storm. The first tool is what we call the 2-second fortress. Modern neuroscience reveals that the emotional survival center of your brain, the amygdala, fires in mere milliseconds when you perceive an insult. It immediately demands that you strike back, defend your honor, and prove your strength. But the prefrontal cortex, the advanced reasoning center of your brain, takes slightly longer to boot up and assess the reality of the situation. When you are insulted, your only job is to buy your rational mind enough time to take the steering wheel. Seneca wrote that the greatest remedy for anger is delay. When someone says something cutting or disrespectful to you, do not say a single word for 2 full seconds. Take 1 deep, slow breath. In that tiny gap of time, the impulsive urge to react loses all of its explosive power. You essentially cut the strings to the puppet master who is trying to make you dance. Between the external stimulus and your internal response, there is a small space, and inside that quiet space lives your ultimate freedom. The second tool is the invisible shield of total silence. In a loud society where everyone is constantly shouting to be heard and desperate to have the last word, silence has become an absolute superpower. When someone mocks you or attempts to humiliate you, they are desperately fishing for a reaction. They want to see you bleed emotionally because your anger validates their fragile ego. By remaining completely silent, you deny them their only prize. You look at them calmly, observing them as if they are simply a barking dog behind a sturdy chain-link fence down the street. It is a mildly annoying sound, but it is entirely harmless to your actual well-being. You would never drop to your knees and bite a stray dog just because it barked at you. So let their toxic words hit the invisible shield of your dignity and fall flat onto the floor. The person who has absolute control over their tongue has absolute control over their entire mind. Silence is not an absence of action. It is the highest form of emotional mastery. The third tool is the practice of buying your peace cheaply. Epictetus taught one of the most brilliant psychological shifts in human history when he said that if someone steals your oil or spills your wine, you should say to yourself that this is simply the small price you pay for peace of mind. Apply this profound logic to the modern world. When a coworker makes a passive-aggressive comment, or a stranger cuts you off in heavy traffic and yells an insult out their window, reframe the entire situation instantly. Tell yourself that you just purchased absolute serenity for the incredibly cheap price of a minor annoyance. You happily traded a few seconds of external discomfort for an entire day of unbroken inner peace. What an absolute bargain. You refuse to trade your precious emotional stability for the fleeting ignorance of someone else. You are the sole gatekeeper of your mind, and no one can ever enter the citadel of your peace without your explicit permission. The next time the world attempts to hand you a toxic gift of betrayal or disrespect, remember that you always have the power to simply refuse the delivery. Leave the bitter poison entirely in their hands. Stand guard at the gates of your perception, and as Marcus Aurelius powerfully reminded himself, always remember that the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. When you begin to practice these mental tools, something profound shifts inside your mind. You no longer walk through the world feeling defensive and anxious, constantly bracing for the next verbal attack. You realize that the people around you, the ones who throw careless insults and project their own deep insecurities, are not your judges. They are simply your training partners in the massive dojo of daily life. True Stoic philosophy is not solely about defending yourself from external negativity. It is about actively embodying a significantly higher standard of personal character. The great philosopher Epictetus taught a fundamental rule that every modern person needs to hear. He instructed his students not to explain their philosophy, but to completely embody it. When someone is remarkably rude to you, or when a jealous coworker intentionally tries to undermine your efforts, you do not need to preach to them about emotional control. You do not need to announce that you are proudly taking the high road. You simply show them exactly what real power looks like through your unbreakable composure. You become a living, breathing example of supreme self-mastery. To help achieve this state, the ancient Stoics frequently practiced a psychological technique called the view from above. When you feel overwhelmed by a harsh comment, calmly imagine your perspective leaving your physical body and rising high up to the ceiling. Imagine rising much higher, floating far above your city, and eventually looking down upon the whole spinning earth. From that massive cosmic altitude, the petty insult that just spiked your blood pressure shrinks into absolute insignificance. The incredibly cruel stranger leaving bitter comments and the highly aggressive driver are all simply tiny threads in a much larger, temporary human tapestry. Will their entirely meaningless words matter a week from now? Will they matter a year from now? Absolutely not. By dramatically expanding your mental perspective, you instantly shrink your daily problems. You stop suffocating in the small, artificial drama that others desperately try to create. Furthermore, a truly unbreakable person is not just a defensive shield that successfully blocks out negativity. They are a profound source of stability in a deeply confused world. Kindness, as the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius powerfully observed, is absolutely invincible if it is sincere. What can even the most hateful person do to you if you consistently continue to show genuine goodwill? They desperately crave a dramatic reaction. They want you to descend directly into the mud with them because your explosive anger completely validates their fragile ego. When you absolutely refuse to drop down to their low emotional level, and when you look at them with quiet compassion instead of burning rage, their vicious verbal attacks completely fall apart. They are left entirely alone. foolishly fighting an invisible shadow. By consciously choosing restraint, you are undeniably proving that your internal mental climate is entirely independent of the highly unpredictable weather outside. The modern world will always be absolutely full of difficult and damaged people. It will always offer you 1,000 different reasons to easily lose your temper, to feel highly offended, and to willingly surrender your precious peace of mind. But you must always remember that absolute inner peace is never a gift that the loud world gently hands to you. True peace is a fortress that you continuously protect at the heavy iron gates of your own perception. You are the sole architect and the only designated guard of your inner citadel. When you finally stop letting the careless words of bitter strangers dictate your internal emotional state, you permanently reclaim your ultimate human freedom. You walk through life with a quiet, unshakable confidence because you know with absolute certainty that no invisible sound wave and no foolish insult can ever touch your mind unless you personally hand them the key. The very next time the world violently attempts to provoke you, do not rush to desperately defend your fragile ego. Do not mirror the heavy chaos of a deeply confused and hurting person. Instead, take a slow, incredibly deep breath. Feel the solid ground firmly beneath your feet. Observe their burning anger without absorbing a single drop of it. Waste no more time arguing about what a genuinely good person should be, and simply be one. Let your absolute silence be your most powerful argument, and let your deeply unbothered peace be your final, glorious victory. This profound shift in your mindset brings you to the ultimate challenge of the Stoic path, which is realizing that you do not need to explain your newfound peace to anyone else. When you start living differently, when you stop reacting to the constant provocations and petty dramas that consume the people around you, you will inevitably face resistance. Friends or coworkers might mock your quiet restraint, mistaking your deliberate silence for weakness or arrogance. They might try even harder to provoke you, confused as to why their carefully crafted insults no longer make you bleed. In these moments, the fragile ego will desperately want to step forward and defend itself. It will urge you to proudly announce that you are practicing stoicism, to lecture them on emotional regulation, and to explain exactly why you are taking the high road. But Epictetus warned his students against this exact trap, instructing them never to simply explain their philosophy, but to completely embody it. Anyone can memorize ancient quotes and talk endlessly about patience, but only a true master can actually remain perfectly calm when someone is actively trying to humiliate them. You do not need to preach about emotional control when your unbreakable composure is already delivering the most powerful sermon imaginable. Marcus Aurelius never preached his philosophy to the Roman soldiers. He simply lived it right in front of them. When heavy panic swept through the ranks during a brutal war, he remained perfectly steady, and his silent example did infinitely more to teach virtue than any long speech ever could. If you truly want to neutralize the negative forces in your life, you must stop trying to convince toxic people with your words and start convincing them with your consistent behavior. Walk your path so honorably and so quietly that you no longer feel the slightest need to prove or defend your internal beliefs to absolutely anyone. However, walking this rational path does not mean you completely isolate yourself from the loud world or abandon the people who are still heavily struggling with their own toxic anger. Do not retreat from difficult people, and do not rage at them. Keep walking your steady path of reason, and show them exactly what real power looks like through your gentle consistency. When you absolutely refuse to descend into the dirty mud with them, you become a living reference point for strength, calmness, and clear moral clarity. You become the quiet, unbreakable anchor in their deeply chaotic storm. The modern world will endlessly test this strong anchor. It will constantly try to hand you the external strings to your own mind, desperately begging you to become a dancing puppet to the daily news, the heavy highway traffic, the incredibly rude comments, and the endless societal outrage. But you now possess the ancient philosophical tools to cut those dangerous strings forever. You know that loud insults are just invisible sound waves, entirely powerless until you personally give them meaning. You know that those who bitterly attack you are deeply sick in spirit, entirely deserving of your silent pity rather than your burning anger. And you know that your rational mind is an impenetrable fortress that only requires a brief 2-second pause to firmly lock its heavy iron gates. The absolute best revenge against a loud, reactive, and highly angry world is to quietly refuse to be a part of it. The exact moment you stop reacting, you permanently reclaim every single ounce of the incredible power they desperately tried to take from you. You become completely untouchable. So the very next time someone heavily attempts to hand you a bitter cup of disrespect, do not loudly argue, do not angrily complain, and do not violently strike back. Take a deep, incredibly slow breath. Clearly feel the solid ground firmly beneath your feet, and simply leave the toxic poison entirely in their open hands. Protect your inner peace as if it is the most valuable treasure on the spinning earth, because it truly is. Walk forward with the profound, unshakable confidence of someone who has finally mastered their own human soul. And let your absolute silence be your final, glorious victory. Even after you have successfully walked away in absolute silence and refused to engage with their toxic behavior, there is often a lingering trap waiting for you in the quiet aftermath. Your physical body has left the confrontation, but your mind is still heavily engaged in the invisible battle. You sit alone in your car or at your desk, and your ego begins to construct a powerful, entirely one-sided narrative where you are the flawless, innocent victim, and the person who insulted you is a complete villain. You obsess over their terrible character, their sheer arrogance, and their unforgivable lack of respect. But the ancient Stoics recognized this exact moment as the ultimate test of true inner mastery. They warned that holding on to self-righteous anger is just another way of letting the attacker live rent-free inside your mind. To completely neutralize the remaining emotional poison, you must deploy a profound psychological tool known as the mirror effect. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius practiced this specific technique every single day of his challenging life. He instructed himself that whenever he felt deeply offended by the faults of another person, he should immediately stop and carefully examine his own history. He asked himself a deeply uncomfortable question: have I ever committed a similar wrong? Think about this concept with absolute honesty. Have you ever lost your temper after a highly exhausting day and snapped at a completely innocent coworker? Have you ever said something unnecessarily cruel to a family member simply because you were projecting your own internal stress? Have you ever gossiped, judged, or let your own fragile ego dictate your actions? The undeniable truth is that we all have. Modern psychology refers to this mental blind spot as the fundamental attribution error. It is the human tendency to excuse our own terrible behavior by blaming our difficult circumstances, while simultaneously judging other people entirely by their actions. Assuming they are fundamentally bad individuals, your ego desperately wants to believe that when you make a mistake, you meant well. But when someone else makes a mistake, they are purely evil. Stoicism forcefully shatters this comfortable illusion. When you look into the mirror of your own past actions, your burning resentment instantly softens into profound humility. You suddenly realize that the person who just threw a harsh insult at you is not some grand monster. They are simply a flawed, deeply confused human being who is currently losing their own internal battle with stress, fear, and ignorance, just like you have lost yours in the past. Seneca wisely observed that to err is human, but to completely forgive is divine. By recognizing your shared imperfection, you instantly dismantle the high pedestal of your own pride. You stop looking down at them with intense hatred, and you start looking at them with genuine, quiet pity. You begin to understand that their loud insults are merely the tragic symptoms of a spiritually sick mind. You would never stand in a hospital and furiously scream back at a physically sick patient just because they accidentally coughed in your general direction. You would recognize that they are unwell, and you would treat them with gentle restraint. The exact same logic applies to people who are mentally and emotionally unwell. Their cruel words are the inevitable coughs of a deeply sick soul. They act out violently because they falsely believe that dominating you will somehow cure their own deep feelings of inadequacy. Once you fully comprehend this hidden reality, you stop demanding apologies from people who do not even understand their own sickness. You forgive them instantly, not because their terrible behavior was acceptable, and certainly not because they deserve your forgiveness. You forgive them entirely because you absolutely deserve peace. You release the heavy, suffocating burden of resentment because you absolutely refuse to carry their emotional garbage for one more second. When you finally master the mirror effect, you realize that true Stoic strength is not just the physical ability to remain silent under heavy fire. It is the profound, unshakable ability to look at a highly aggressive, deeply insulting person, clearly recognize the exact same human flaws that exist within yourself, and simply wish them well as you calmly walk away, entirely unbroken. Once you have mastered the mirror effect and washed the bitter resentment from your own mind, you must return to the immediate physical reality of the confrontation. The person standing right in front of you is still desperately waiting for a fight. Their heart is racing, their ego is fully inflamed, and they are holding their breath, anticipating your furious counterattack. They deeply need you to yell back. They need your dramatic reaction to validate their aggressive behavior and to assure them that their toxic words actually have power. In this highly charged moment, your own ego will scream at you to deliver a crushing verbal blow, to humiliate them with a perfectly crafted comeback that puts them firmly in their place. But this is exactly where you must deploy the ultimate Stoic weapon. It is a weapon that requires zero physical effort, yet it carries the crushing weight of a collapsing mountain. That weapon is absolute, unbreakable silence. We live in an incredibly loud world where everyone is constantly shouting to be heard, where firing back a quick insult is seen as a mark of strength, and where having the final word is mistakenly viewed as victory. But the ancient Stoic philosophers understood a profound psychological secret. Silence is not an absence of power. It is the absolute peak of emotional mastery. Think of their burning anger as a wild fire. A fire desperately needs a constant supply of oxygen to stay alive. Your emotional reaction, your defensive arguments, and your raised voice are the exact oxygen that their fire requires to keep burning. The very second you open your mouth to argue with a fool, you are voluntarily throwing gasoline right onto their flames. But when you look at them with steady eyes and offer absolutely nothing but complete silence, you are essentially dropping a heavy glass jar over their fire. You completely deprive them of the oxygen they need, and you silently watch as their toxic energy suffocates and burns itself out. Epictetus taught his students that a person is measured by the quality, not the quantity, of their words. He frequently compared our reactive emotions to the strings of a puppet. When someone throws a harsh insult your way, they are essentially holding out an invisible string, desperately hoping that you will take it. When you speak out in anger, you are willingly tying that string directly to your own jaw, allowing them to make you dance like a foolish marionette for their personal entertainment. But absolute silence is the incredibly sharp blade that cuts those strings forever. It leaves the attacker holding nothing but empty air. Modern psychology entirely supports this ancient wisdom. When you enforce silence, even for just a few seconds, you give your highly evolved prefrontal cortex the necessary time to completely override your primitive emotional instincts. You instantly shift from a state of weak reaction to a state of absolute control. Furthermore, your silence acts as a devastating mirror to the attacker. When they hurl an ugly insult and you offer absolutely no reaction, their cruel words simply bounce off your invisible shield and echo loudly in the quiet space you just created. Without your anger to distract them, they are forced to sit alone with the heavy embarrassment of their own childish behavior. They end up looking incredibly foolish, while you remain standing there looking entirely untouchable. You do not need to defend your honor to someone who clearly has absolutely none of their own. You simply stand your ground, maintain your quiet dignity, and realize that the person who has absolute control over their tongue has absolute control over their entire human soul. Your peace of mind is an impenetrable fortress, and your silence is the heavy iron door that keeps the chaos permanently locked outside. Instead of viewing this silence as a quiet retreat, the Stoic views it as the ultimate victory in the sparring dojo of daily life. You have successfully absorbed their heaviest emotional punch without moving a single inch. You have proven to yourself that your internal climate cannot be altered by the highly unpredictable weather of someone else's bad mood. The next time someone desperately tries to drag you down into their muddy chaos, simply refuse the invitation. Look at them with quiet compassion. Offer them the deafening sound of your absolute silence, and confidently walk away, knowing that true power is never loud, but is always perfectly at peace. When the heavy silence finally settles and the immediate confrontation is over, you are left with a fundamental choice about how you permanently view the person who just tried to break you. Your natural human instinct is to label them as a toxic enemy, a villain who deliberately ruined your morning commute, or intentionally sabotaged your peaceful afternoon at the office. But to truly master your mind, you must completely discard the fragile concept of enemies. You must step into what the ancient philosophers considered the ultimate arena of human development. Imagine that the entire external world is a massive, invisible dojo, and every single difficult person you encounter is simply a sparring partner assigned to you by the universe. When you walk into a martial arts gym and your assigned sparring partner throws a sudden punch that lands heavily on your shoulder, you do not collapse onto the floor and throw a massive temper tantrum. You do not violently shout at them and ask why life is so incredibly unfair. You fully expect the physical resistance. You understand that their aggression is absolutely necessary for your own personal improvement. You deliberately use their incoming force to test your fast reflexes, to heavily check your physical balance, and to tightly secure your defensive guard. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius deeply understood this powerful psychological framework when he boldly wrote that the art of living is much more like wrestling than dancing. A Stoic does not expect life to move gracefully with them to a perfect, completely predictable rhythm. They fully expect life to severely push back. When an angry stranger violently yells at you in a crowded grocery store parking lot, or when a highly careless coworker actively dismisses your hard work, it is never a random ambush. It is merely a mandatory drill. It is a live exercise carefully designed to test the current strength of your emotional composure. Modern psychology frequently refers to this exact process as exposure resilience. Just as a professional athlete repeatedly runs highly exhausting drills under heavy physical stress to build permanent muscle memory, you must continuously train under the daily friction of difficult people to completely build your lasting emotional mastery. Every single minor irritation, unexpected delay, or cruel insult is a golden opportunity to violently test the heavy gates of your internal fortress. Think of their incredibly harsh words as completely free feedback. If a careless comment deeply hurts your feelings, it simply reveals that you still care entirely too much about your public reputation. If an unexpected interruption completely ruins your current mood, it clearly proves that you still have serious work to do on your own personal patience. Life will constantly reveal your hidden emotional weaknesses, not to brutally shame you, but to give you the exact necessary tools to successfully strengthen them. Someone bitterly criticizes you, and that is simply a daily balance test. Someone openly lies about you, and that is a rigorous test of your internal focus. Someone completely ignores your genuine effort, and that is a profound test of your own humility. The loud, highly angry world is not actively attacking you. It is actively shaping you. By fully adopting this powerful sparring mindset, you completely eliminate the pathetic role of the victim from your entire life. You absolutely no longer ask why these terrible things are constantly happening to you. You simply begin to ask how you can immediately use this exact friction to grow infinitely stronger. The very next time you forcefully collide with a deeply unhappy person, do not quickly brace for a miserable conflict. Take a deep, incredibly deliberate breath. Mentally bow to your brand new sparring partner and silently thank them for the excellent training session. You stay perfectly centered in the absolute middle of their highly chaotic storm, knowing that you are successfully sparring your way toward absolute wisdom, and clearly proving that your peaceful mind is the most unbreakable force in the entire room. As you finally step out of this mental sparring dojo and walk back into the highly unpredictable reality of your daily life, you must carry this profound shift in perspective constantly with you. Tomorrow morning, the bright sun will rise, and the entire world will inevitably continue to be loud, chaotic, and completely full of deeply confused people. You will absolutely face heavy traffic on your morning commute. You might encounter a highly passive-aggressive coworker at the office, or you might read a completely thoughtless and rude comment from a total stranger on the internet. Someone, somewhere, is going to hand you the invisible strings of their own toxic anger and desperately beg you to become a puppet, dancing to their bitter rhythm. In that exact moment, your fragile ego will flare up one final time, quietly whispering that you absolutely need to defend your personal honor, that you need to fire back with a harsh insult, and that you need to prove your ultimate superiority. But you are no longer the exact same reactive person who instinctively strikes back at every single barking dog in the street. You now possess the ultimate philosophical armor. When that inevitable insult violently comes your way tomorrow, I want you to clearly remember the single most powerful piece of advice ever written by the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, as he ruled a massive global empire surrounded by constant betrayal, heavy political conflict, and daily provocations. He simply reminded his own mind that the absolute best revenge is to not be like your enemy. Think deeply about the incredible, crushing weight of that single sentence. The angry person attacking you heavily wants you to immediately mirror their internal chaos. They desperately want you to rapidly descend into the dirty mud right alongside them because your explosive anger completely validates their own miserable human existence. By firmly refusing to ever become like them, you completely strip away every ounce of their temporary power. You absolutely do not need to deliver a devastating verbal comeback to successfully put them in their proper place. Your absolute, unbroken silence has already done that entire job for you. When you confidently offer them quiet compassion instead of burning rage, you instantly elevate yourself high above the entire meaningless conflict. You successfully transform their highly toxic weapon into your own ultimate protective shield. From this exact day forward, clearly view your absolute silence not as a weak and fearful retreat, but as an impenetrable psychological fortress. Let their cruel and thoughtless words heavily hit that invisible wall and simply fall harmlessly to the solid floor. You are the sole trusted architect of your internal emotional climate. and you absolutely refuse to let the temporary bad weather of another flawed human being dictate whether you experience a truly peaceful day or a thoroughly miserable one. You absolutely do not need to aggressively explain your new philosophy to anyone, and you do not need to loudly announce to the room that you are proudly taking the high road. You simply need to quietly embody it entirely in your daily actions. Be the absolute, unshakable stillness in the direct center of their raging external storm. Let them fully exhaust themselves, foolishly fighting a quiet shadow, while you calmly continue to build a beautiful, highly meaningful life. The ultimate and final victory over a highly toxic person is suddenly realizing that you absolutely no longer need them to understand you, to respect you, or to eventually apologize to you. Your peace of mind is unconditionally yours, successfully purchased entirely through your own daily self-discipline. You have finally dropped the incredibly heavy, suffocating burden of holding on to bitter resentment, and you realize that you no longer have to carry their emotional garbage for a single passing second. The absolute psychological freedom that naturally comes from completely letting go of the desperate human need to always be right is the greatest permanent reward you could ever possibly give yourself. So confidently step into tomorrow with your head held high and your heart perfectly steady. Whenever the loud and confused world aggressively demands your anger, simply smile internally, take a deep and incredibly slow breath, and confidently offer it your absolute silence. Because the true Stoic master knows with complete and undeniable certainty that true power is never loud. True strength never requires a clapping audience, and true human freedom is simply walking away from the heavy chaos entirely untouched. The journey to Stoic mastery does not happen overnight, but it begins with a single conscious choice. The next time the loud world tries to break your peace, remember the incredible power of your pause and the unbreakable shield of your silence. If this message helped you find stillness and clarity today, consider subscribing to the channel and joining our growing community of calm minds. We are not just surviving the modern chaos, we are mastering it together. Thank you for watching and for choosing to protect your inner peace. Stay completely grounded, and I will see you in the next video.